Hi everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and welcome on in for Star Trek Day. That's right, today is the 59th anniversary of the first airing of Star Trek the original series. 59 years that Star Trek has been, part of the culture of our world, right? And that's pretty amazing. And I've often talked on this channel about I don't know, I guess its presence in popular culture. Just the amount of TV shows, books, games, toys, and all of the things that are in the Star Trek universe. It's incredible. There is an amount that I think is like second to none. There's no other property out there that even comes close, when you look at everything that's available. So, what is it about Star Trek that has made it so lasting and so important to so many people, including myself, right? And I guess that's a question that everyone can kind of answer for themselves, right? Everybody has their own things that they like about it, their own things that brought them to the series. People have come on being fans of the original series. I myself came on Next Generation fan, and I can tell you kind of exactly how it happened for me as well. I was, I would have to say, 10 to 12 years old, somewhere within that range, right? Um, Going through a lot. We had moved multiple times, lots of conflict, lots of fighting. This kind of stuff was kind of a constant thing going on, right? So, Star Trek TNG, when I found that, it was just like this beautiful, stable thing, right? And these characters, they always worked together, they didn't fight with each other, and it just really struck a chord with me, really resonated. I, at that time, got very deep into it. Um, Read a lot of the books, of course, watched as much as I could. Different time back then. You couldn't just stream all the episodes, You had to watch them, of course, when they came out and then hope to catch some in reruns. Or maybe you could, get yourself some VHS tapes or later on DVDs. But it wasn't the same. You couldn't just turn on and watch any episode anytime that you would want. So, I got into TNG. I didn't get as much into Deep Space Nine at that time, but I did get into Voyager, and those two shows just I really enjoyed, right? And then as I kind of got older into my like teenage years and stuff, I did fall off a little bit, and I didn't watch, I didn't follow quite as much. But then there was, of course, like the revival, the Star Trek 2009 movie. But what happened really for me was when there was a time when my son, I think he was about 5 years old, and so this is about 10 years ago now, really, for whatever reason, I can't remember what it was, I think maybe he found some of my old toys, got very into Star Trek. And he wanted to get the ships. We did a lot of flea marketing. He wanted to go to the flea markets and get the toys. And that was the beginning of all of this, basically, right? So we kind of started out getting stuff for him, and then as he grew older and kind of got past that, then I got heavily back into it again. And like really heavily back into it, right? And then of course we had this kind of the revival of Star Trek with Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, Star Trek Prodigy, and again, I've talked multiple times about the difference between that Star Trek and the Star Trek of the 90s. And I love it all. And you guys know that. I love all Star Trek. It's all fantastic to me. Uh, Give me anything you got, and I'm going to enjoy it. But um, there's just something about the Star Trek of the 90s that's never going to be recreated. So we just have to kind of take what we got now and just enjoy that for what it is, right? And there is a lot to be to be taken in right now, to be honest with you. They are really pushing like the Star Trek market. So multiple comic books, multiple shows going on, multiple games in development right now. So an incredible, array of Star Trek things. And of course, you always have the gigantic world of Star Trek books that you can fall back on if you so desire, right? So it's incredible. There's just this huge amount of lore and, I don't know, built up love for this world and these characters, and I guess to put a pin in it, all right, to finish it up here, what should we say? What is it about Star Trek that keeps me coming back? What is it about Star Trek that is, the driving force? What is it that makes Star Trek Star Trek? And I guess for me, it is the overall message that the show puts forward. And in my mind, that message is, look at this future that humanity can have. We can be traveling the stars. We can be in a post-scarcity world, where money is no longer a factor, and we are literally working to better ourselves and to better humanity. And it's just thinking about that, and how we could possibly get to that future. It's a very, it's a fun thing to do, and that's one of the things that I like about Star Trek the most. It makes you think, that could be us someday, if only we could get past our differences, our petty racism, our terrible greed. Like these things that are holding us back are keeping us from getting to this Star Trek future, that we could totally get to, right? And I guess one thing too about being a Star Trek fan is that hopefully, as a fan, you are constantly working towards bringing Star Trek, the future that we need, into reality, right? Which is why I love being part of the International Federation of Trekkers, where it's taking a fandom, taking something, and then actually using that to do some good in the world, which is, I think, the whole point. That's the whole point of Star Trek, is to drive people to do positive things, to drive people towards science, to drive people towards intelligent decisions rather than baseless greed, and just basing their decisions on what is best for them, right? Instead of what is best for the whole, for the collective, right? Anyway, that's my Star Trek Day rant. I was going to come on here today and talk about all of the news, and man, was there ever some news today. Much news. But I figured, we'll save that for tomorrow. That'll be exciting. We'll have a big Warp Tuesday, Star Trek Day news reveal, where we'll go over all of the fun stuff. But today, I just figured we'd sit down and talk about, what it is that I like about Star Trek, and, I guess what I hope to see going forward, which is this fandom to continue to grow. We're coming up to the 60th anniversary next year, and that it becomes a driving force for good and for change in our world, so that we can someday be in that future, jamming out with Riker and Geordi and Captain Picard, partying with the crew of the original series, and eating cake with 7 and 9, right? That's what we all want in the future. So, let's continue to strive and to work towards that. I hope you enjoyed your Star Trek Day. I hope you were able to sit down and watch your favorite episode, or do something Star Trek related at least. And if not, do it tomorrow. As always, my friends, live long and prosper, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night.